The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this episode are that of the guest and host and do not necessarily reflect the values of sponsors or other associated organizations. Welcome to The Parental Compass by Family Education and Support Services. I am your host, Bobby Williams. Today we are talking all things nutrition during pregnancy. Our guest is Suzzie Vehrs. Suzzie is a doula and childbirth educator who has attended over 200 births. You can learn more about Suzzie at her website, shebirthsbravely.com. There's all types of incredible resources and articles and recipes and just a lot of information on that site. What I appreciated about Suzzie was she took this very complicated topic and made it seem simple and accessible. I really appreciated this conversation. I think you will too. Let's check it out. Boom. One thing I hear with pregnant women is that you'll get these urges to eat weird foods, like you want ice cream with pickles or something. Why is that, or where does that come from?
It is really natural to have cravings. Sometimes, though, those the weird cravings are a sign that something could be wrong. Like, for example, if you hear someone saying like, oh, I want to eat paper, or I feel like I want to eat paint. Like sometimes people get really strange cravings like that. And that's often a sign that you have like severe deficiencies in something. So you should absolutely talk to your doctor if you're having very, very strange cravings. But if you're like most women, it is very normal to like, yes, pickles have a lot of nutrition in them. They're also acidic. They can sometimes help with if you're getting a lot of like queasiness at the end of your pregnancy or heartburn, sometimes they help with that. And so it's just a very common go-to for like, okay, well, I don't want to be taking like an entire jar of Tums every day. What can I eat that can help? And for some women, it's pickles. So they eat a lot of pickles.
It's interesting how your body just sometimes gives you like natural cures. It's like, I don't know why I want pickles, but I know that I want them. And there's a real answer to that. So that's super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Nutrition is super important to pregnancy. And unfortunately, not very many women receive nutritional counseling during their pregnancies. And even when they do, it's often about weight, which is not the same conversation as what types of foods help you build a healthy pregnancy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about weight for a second because I am curious about that. It seems like when you're pregnant, your body is telling you just eat, eat, eat. You have to support a child that's growing, but is there
Mhm.
like a rule of thumb of like how much more to eat or how many more calories you need or what that all looks like?
Yeah, you should be following your intuition. So you'll always be doing best if you are um, eating according to, if you're just paying attention to your natural hunger cues, is where you want to start. Weight loss during pregnancy is pretty much not good for anybody, even if you're starting off a little bit overweight. And ultimately, you want to be switching your focus to nutritious, like whole nutritious foods. But if you can switch from, say, like, okay, I'm craving something salty, you can switch from something like potato chips to like pistachios or nuts, or seaweed is really super nutritious and has a lot of things in it, like iron that you don't get from a lot of other foods. But in general, most women need approximately 300 extra calories a day while they're pregnant. So you're not technically eating for two, you're just making a small bump in calories, and hopefully those calories will be nutritionally dense.
A lot of parents like their cup of coffee in the morning, or some people drink a lot of Diet Coke and things. Is caffeine bad for a child? Does it matter?
Um, there's a really good book. It's called Real Food for Pregnancy by Lily Nichols that has a whole chapter on caffeine. If you normally drink caffeine, you can typically stay like a cup of coffee is okay. You definitely don't want to be going really heavy on like sports drinks and things like that that have, if one, like I love going to Starbucks. I cannot give up my weekly Starbucks trip. That's okay when it's in reason. But if you're thinking about like, okay, now we're taking in drinks that have 500 to 800 calories each and no nutrition, well, we're not really focusing then on building a healthy pregnancy. We're just giving ourselves more calories, which is different. But yes, a little bit of caffeine is okay. Think about like a cup of coffee a day, um, or about that.
Mm. It seems like that ties into then your overall mind state. Like if you're drinking a lot of Red Bull throughout the day, you're not thinking enough about your health potentially.
Right. And that's a really common problem that we have in more developed countries is that we have access to a lot of calories and a lot of calories that have no nutrients.
It seems like there's a lot to consider when deciding on your nutrition. Is there any way to like simply break it down, like you're saying, like half the plate should be fruits and vegetables, or is there, just something the audience can think about every day and be like, oh yeah, this.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, if you were to summarize prenatal nutrition in like the elevator pitch, right? 2 minutes or less. If you look at your food, think half the plate vegetables, one quarter fats and protein, because those typically go together. Like if you look at a handful of nuts, that's fats and proteins. You can't really separate that. Same with like chicken. You can go ahead and eat the dark meat. That's okay. Your baby's brain is made up of like 80 something percent fat. So super important that we're getting those healthy sources of fats from whole foods. And then the other quarter of the plate would be your carbs. So whether that's, if you love white bread, even though it's not the most nutritionally dense, go ahead and have some. Your berries, your fruits, your oatmeal, things like that. So if you're kind of approaching your each meal, if you have 3 meals in the day, a couple snacks, and you're thinking overall, I'm trying to get half my plate's vegetables, half my plate vegetables, a quarter protein meat, and a quarter carbs, you're going to be doing pretty well.
Nice. And that is something you can just think about. Very simple, very easy. You mentioned the prenatal vitamins, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems like, are those essential, or can you make up for other unhealthy eating with them, or how do they play into the overall impact of nutrition?
Yeah. I guess everybody has different feelings about supplementation and how well your body can absorb nutrients from prenatal vitamins. And if you look at 20 different brands of prenatal vitamins, you're going to find very different combinations. So it is important to kind of do your research and find one that you feel really great about. But that said, some things like the folic acid have been studied quite a bit. We know that most women should be getting folic acid through a supplement. We also know that women coming off of birth control are very often deficient in B vitamins. So if you take 2 or 3 months to kind of work on your nutritional stores, you can work with a registered dietitian or nutritionist. That there are very many um, would be the person that you would go to if you want to, like, say, get tested and look at, what are your levels for these different nutrients and do you have any gaps you should fill. They can do like take your blood and then give you like a breakdown of what you need individually. But if we're talking about a general population, like, yes, taking a prenatal vitamin, most of us, unfortunately, do have deficiencies, and the risk of having a deficiency can be so great for something, like spina bifida, that's kind of, you can't do anything about it after 8 weeks. That's a critical period in development for an infant where you can't go back and change it after, right? So I am a big supporter of prenatal vitamins for most people.
That makes sense. Is it important that you eat organic? Like, how big of a role does that play?
I think it's far more important to eat whole, nutritious foods as much as you can. Organic food typically does, like if you look at an organic egg versus a non-organic egg, or um, a free range organic egg, yes, it will have more, you're going to see more nutrients in that organic egg, choline, vitamin A. Um, Again, I would love, like, if you're really curious about a really deep answer, go check out that book by Lily Nichols, which is Real Food for Pregnancy. Um, but don't like criticize yourself if all you can get is a regular egg. Eat the regular egg, right? And pat yourself on the back for making a really good decision. Sometimes I feel like we're so harsh on ourselves during pregnancy that if we can't do everything absolutely the best, then we get really disappointed, and then we go into like a cycle of like, okay, now I give up. Like, good is good and you should celebrate that.
I appreciate that because in listening to all these different ideas, it sounds like prenatal vitamins, all this food, it could get really expensive. How do you stay nutritious but keep on budget?
Yeah. Well, I will say this, that just from my personal experience, I actually spend less money when I'm eating healthier. And typically that's because when I know for myself, when I eat healthy, well-rounded meals and I'm planning that out, I'm not like, I get full and I stay full for a long time. And so it's easier to stay, like if you say like, okay, you're going to try to eat 3 meals a day and 2 snacks. Well, if I start the day with a whole bunch of empty calories, like if I'm going really quickly through the day, and so I just do something very unhealthy, like, okay, I'm going to grab like this box of crackers that has no nutrition in it. I'm going to be starving, and then I'm going to eat something else, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to get something at Starbucks, and then I'm going to usually get something else. And poor eating habits typically end up being more expensive because we don't stop being hungry because we're not getting the nutrients we need. It does take time to build really good eating habits, but in general, if you're planning your food, eggs, yes, are more expensive now than they used to be. But if you start your day every day with a slice of avocado toast and 2 eggs, it seems like that could get expensive if that's what you're always eating. But if you consider like that compared to like a bag of chips or something where you're going to have to eat an entire bag of chips before you're full, and then you're still going to be looking at around like, okay, what do I eat next? Typically, the planned meals will come out cheaper than the chaotic eating, which I have been a person that's ate very chaotically. So there's no judgment here. Um,
Yeah, same here.
yeah.
I think what really gets you is when you go out to lunch and it's like $15. And it's like that used to be like $9 or something. I mean,
Mhm.
inflation and eating out, I think, is the biggest obstacle, especially when you're busy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know for me, like, like half your plate vegetables is a lot more vegetables than I think most people get. A couple things you can do to make that easier is like, one, get some vegetables in the morning. We have a recipe on our blog for creamed spinach with eggs, which you can like meal prep so it's ready to go. You take 10 minutes on a Saturday, get 5 little jars ready, and then in the morning you just dump it and stick it in the oven. So it takes 5 minutes total. And you're starting your day off with eggs and spinach. Um, no extra time or cleanup compared to cereal. You can also like do avocado toast, which is again, you're starting something very nutritional right from the start.
Remind us of your blog again.
Oh, the blog is She Births Bravely.
What about food that you've just always enjoyed? Is there any food that you need to drop now that you're pregnant? Like I'm thinking about that rare steak you like or something. Are there foods to be avoided?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Things like raw fish or shellfish like oysters, things like that, that can carry extra risk of salmonella. You should cook your meat. A lot of people avoid lunch meat, even though that's quite debated. Most people avoid alcohol. Other foods like soft cheeses are not okay. Most people don't eat sushi, things like that.
Another common problem with pregnancy is nausea. And then if you're feeling nauseous or you're throwing up, you're losing all that nutritious food that you ate. Is there any tips or ideas you can share about that?
Yeah, well, make sure that you're communicating to your doctor. Extreme nausea is something that is sometimes treatable, or that they could check you into the hospital for if it has gotten out of hand and you're, say, losing weight. Most people don't get that bad. But if you have a little bit of nausea or morning sickness throughout the day, it's kind of a misnomer. Again, we're coming back to that's very often a sign that you're deficient in B vitamins. One of the reasons I love suggesting avocado toast for breakfast is because that does have a lot of the B vitamins and the magnesium and some of the things that are linked with stronger sensations of morning sickness. Also, if you're not getting enough protein, you're likely to have more sickness. So again, I know it's like really hard when you're nauseous, you don't want to eat, but on the other hand, if you are able to eat and if you're able to get some nutrient dense food, you're less likely to be nauseous. So it's kind of like a, a cycle that an unfortunate cycle. You kind of have to do the hard thing first to get the result.
I appreciate that there are people like you putting so much thought and energy into this. And do you have any closing thoughts or ideas you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I just want to, one, say thank you to all the mothers out there that are literally growing the future of the world. I hope that you see how incredibly valued that is and that you're supported during it. And two, when it comes to nutrition and pregnancy, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for progress. So don't be hard on yourself. Celebrate your little wins. And if you need help, get support. If you need if no one has talked to you about pregnancy, a good childbirth class should take you through the basics of nutrition and pregnancy and help you kind of understand the good, the bad, the basics. And then from there, if you need more individualized support, you're looking for a registered nutritionist or dietitian that can help you one-on-one. Is where you'd go for that food counseling at an individual level.
Suzzie Vehrs, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Suzzie Vehrs, shebirthsbravely.com. Thank you for taking the time, Suzzie. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and keep doing the incredible work. This has been the Parental Compass by Family Education and Support Services. I'm Bobby Williams. We'll see you next episode. Peace.